So now we're going to learn the border property, the CSS border property. And I'm going to code this one from the beginning just so you could see the entire work process, let it sort of be ingrained in your mind. When I teach at the college and university, often I have students who are asking me, please continue showing me the GitHub stuff. Please continue doing your commits in class so that I can see that. So at the end, I'll do all the GitHub stuff. And at the beginning here, so forgive me if this is like you got this down. There might be some students out there who need to see this. So at the beginning, my experience tells me there are. At the beginning, I'm going to do all the stuff where it's like creating the folder and everything. Anyhow, here we go. So I'm going to right click up here on my root directory and choose a new directory. And this one's going to be 0, 1, 2. And just stick with my naming convention with that underscore there. And I'm going to do the border property. I'll just call it border. There we go. And then I'm going to right click again and choose new HTML file. And I'll call it index. And I'll right click again. And I'm going to call this one the new style sheet and then main.css. And I'm going to come up here to the top and right click and split vertically. And now I've got that in two areas right there. Now I'm going to link to my CSS. And now I'm ready to start writing code. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add a div in here. A div is a generic container for holding content. That's how it's defined. So we're learning the different tags. But there's my div. And then over here, I'm going to create a rule set. And I'm going to use the element selector as my selector. And I'm selecting all divs on the page. So if I had multiple divs, and let's do that, it would select all of them. And now what I want to do is give each div a width and also a height. And px stands for pixels. And eventually we're going to go over units of measurement. And pixel is a type of unit of measurement. But we need to build a couple of other pieces of knowledge for you before we hit that. So there I have a width and height. And then I'm going to do a border. And I could just do border 1 pixel solid red. Right? And so there's my 1 pixel solid red border. Cool. So now if I preview this page, come over to my page, another mistake students sometimes make in WebStorm is they come up here and they're like, I lost my little thing to preview it. Well, you're on the CSS page. You need to be on the HTML page to preview it, and then that'll pop up. There it is. Click it. And I could go look at this in my browser. And I have 3 divs stacked on top of each other. And we mentioned in the preview of this section that everything on the web is a box. So here are those boxes, 3 divs stacked on top of each other. What if I didn't have a width? So I'm going to comment that width out, come back over here and refresh, and they took up just naturally, the div took up the whole width of the page. And as I change the size of my browser, right, it takes up whatever the width is of the browser. That's just the nature of the div. That's the nature of block level element, a block level element, right? So that's how divs work. Anyhow, so there's our border property, and we've set it to 1 pixel solid red. Now I said I wanted to play with border. I'm going to change these back to 100 just so they're not too wide. I said I wanted to play with border, so I'm going to do one more thing here. Sorry, my throat gets a little dry talking all day. And now image. And for the source, I'm going to go get that puppy. I have it up here in 0 image, so I'm going to go up a folder, .. and then hold Control spacebar on my keyboard. And there's the 00 image folder. So I open that, / Control spacebar. There's my pup.jpg. And I'm going to get rid of the alt text. In practice, I'd want to fill this out because that's good design and that's good accessibility, and that helps you rank better with search engines. In teaching, I like keeping things a little bit leaner so that it's not a big mess on the page, which can be overwhelming for people. They're like, whoa, so much stuff going on. It just looks intimidating. So I like to keep things as thin and clean as possible on the page. So I'm taking the alt out for now. I'm going to do another rule set, and I'm just continuing to use this terminology so it gets ingrained in your head so you actually know how to communicate and talk about web pages appropriately and accurately. I'm going to do another rule set with an element selector. The element selector I'm going to use is image. So I'm going to select all images on the page, even though there's only one. I'm going to do border, and then I'm going to do 10 pix as my width. And when I get here, I'm going to hold down Control again on my keyboard, spacebar. And now look at all the different choices I have. Before, I was just doing solid, but I could go through and I could look at all these, right? So there I got straight to colors. I could have groove, dash, dotted, double, hidden, inherit, inset, none. I really like groove, though we could explore dash, dotted, double, all those. Groove, and we'll do this one orange. That's like one of my favorites. So we could do orange, red, just mix it up a little. Cool. So there I have an image. Well, what if, and let's preview that. Kapow! Waha! Sweet. Look at that. Dog. Nice little grooved border around there. Nice. What if I wanted to have a couple of images and I wanted to format them differently? I could give them a class. So class, and this one I'm going to call it, I don't know, 1 dog. And this one I'll call it class 2 dog. And this one I'll call it class 3 dog. Or maybe I should call it dog 3 because there's not 3 dogs. There's like just the second dog. Whatever. Dog 3, 1. Cool. And now I could come up here and I could duplicate this code. And instead of having an element selector for my rule set, I'm going to do dog 1. And then on this one, I'm going to do dog 2. And on this one, I'm going to do dog, I need the period, dog 3. Sweet. And so now when I go back and I refresh my page, I've got all those dogs. Now they all have the same border, but I could start doing this. Instead of groove, I could do dashed. And instead of groove, I could do Control spacebar, dotted. Instead of groove, I could do double. Now, do you want to see something totally cool? I could select this right here, and then I could go to Help, Key Map Reference. And in the Key Map Reference, under Selections, right, I could do Alt-J, Select Next Occurrence, Alt-J. So let me show you that. So I'm going to do Alt, and it's different on the Mac. And I just selected all those, and now I'm going to make them like 30 pixels because I want them to be big. So let's come back here and refresh. Sweet. Look at all my different dogs. I like that. Why do I have that last one? Because I have this right here in my code. I don't need that one. Control Y, delete that entire line. So now there are my different borders that I could do. And I can make these smaller. So Alt, J, J, and let's just bring them back to 10, and then we can look at that. So we could see what those different borders do. I'll bring this one back to 10 too. And hit Escape to get multiple Carré selection off. Otherwise, you'll be typing stuff where you don't mean to type it. So that's a little bit of fun playing around with the border property in CSS and setting different borders and using Control spacebar to see the different options and doing multiple selection by using Alt-J, multiple selection, which is really awesome, and starting to use classes as a selector. So we have an element selector and then also class selectors. And notice the class selector, even though the image selector selected each of these images, so all of those images, right, got selected, just these over here, right? But all of those got selected by that, right? This overwrote it, okay? So we'll learn about CSS specificity at some point, and that's how that works. All right, so that's the border property. That's the primary thing you're learning here. And there's different options, but you're also picking up reinforcing terminology and picking up shortcut keys for WebStorm and starting to learn about class selectors in a rule set.